Thank you, Mr. Buschmann, for this tailwind for the Bundeskartellamt. And now we listen to Sven Giegold, State Secretary in the Ministry of Economy and Climate Action. And Mr. Giegold, I'm sure we will get some tailwind from you as well. You have the floor.
Yeah, dear Mr. Mund, dear Margrethe, dear Mr. Buschmann, dear heads of agencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, we are all very honored to have you here in Berlin. 2 years ago at this conference, I already had the chance to speak. My main conclusion back then was the more economic approach in enforcement is in decline. Concentration, market structure, and power have become more important again. The antitrust pendulum had swung away, as Mr. Mund already said, from Chicago. I'm happy to say again, this is still true. But the last 2 years have been intense. We have seen a massive geopolitical rupture. Ukrainians are fighting for their lives and fighting for our common freedom. China is watching closely. And inside Germany and Europe, we have to stand up to defend our democracies. Our Chancellor has used the German notion of Zeitenwende, historic turning point, watershed moment. The underlying geopolitical rupture has also far-reaching economic consequences for Germany and for Europe. It has also raised new challenges for competition policy. Therefore, I would like to address 3 questions. First, what does Zeitenwende mean for competition policy? What are the main challenges and opportunities? Second, what have we achieved over the last 2 years? Have we used the window of opportunity due to the antitrust pendulum swing? And third, what do we want competition policy to achieve in the years to come? So let me start with the first question, what does Zeitenwende mean for competition policy? Defending and holding together our European democracies requires improving our economic strength and competitiveness. Probably all of us agree on that. It's probably fair to assume that the next European Commission will have competition in industrial policy in its focus, based on the Green Deal and based on the digital transformation. There will also be calls for more state aid. There will also be calls for European champions. And there will be the political background song, domestic competition would be bad for competitiveness and bad for security. I do not only strongly disagree, I firmly believe the opposite is true. And it is the role of that church here to make this voice heard. Strong competition in the EU is a necessary condition for international competitiveness of our firms and for our security. Why? First, firms in markets with fierce competition tend to be more dynamic and flexible. They are better adapted to shocks and changes in capacity. Second, more competition leads to more differentiated supply chains. This helps to reduce shock points and structural dependencies. Third, when we grant state aid, competition is necessary to guarantee an optimal take-up and efficient use of the subsidies. If industrial policy is designed well, competition and industrial policy are complementary. Fourth, there is little that fosters innovation, investment, and the transformation we all need for our survival, as much as effective competition. Therefore, let me clearly say, competition is not part of the problem, competition is part of the solution. We can have consolidation in European defense industry. We can give state aid to chip manufacturers. We can mandate, incentivize pharmaceutical production within the territory of the EU. But in all cases, we need market forces and competitive pressure to deliver the best results. And we need common supervision of that process by the European Commission. Competition, and that's my third point, true, and state aid policy alone will not solve our competitiveness and security challenges. But markets and competition have to be ingredient in every recipe. Zeitenwende does not only mean that we have to defend competition within the EU, it also means that we have to take up the systems competition. Effective and fair competition in the internal market can be Europe's comparative advantage over state capitalism. But there are several conditions for the long-term success of our market economy. One is we have to protect the internal market against distortive subsidies, and that's why all what we have done in Germany and other states is to be done under the auspices of the European Commission. Therefore, the foreign subsidies regulation is a huge step forward. Some of you, in particular you, Margrethe, may remember the fight over Siemens Alstom. We are fortunate that the conclusion was it is not our merger rules that are the problems, it is unfair Chinese subsidies. In the Siemens Alstom market, the subsidies to the Chinese Railway Stock Corporation, CRRC, the foreign subsidies regulation will cost the Commission a lot of enforcement work and resources, but this is the right way, being systematic and tough on the root causes of the problem. We are closely watching the current first test case for the regulation, a tender offer by CRRC in Bulgaria. That is the first case about CRRC is not only an irony of history, it is also proof that the EU has been dead right on the regulation. We cannot be naive in this systems competition. This is all the more true given that the train funding in Bulgaria comes partly from the EU's Recovery and Resilience Fund. Another angle of fair competition is consumer protection and product safety. The EU rightly has high standards, but we also need to enforce them. Platforms such as Temu have to be systematically scrutinized and, if necessary, banned from selling unsafe, illegal products in the EU. Enforcement of competition today also means effective implementation of common EU rules. This is also part of what the member states have to deliver, but the Commission cannot sit idle if member states fail to do so. Zeitenwende is not only about competitiveness and systems competition, it also means that politics reallocates political priorities, resources and budgets. For Germany, we will very probably, sorry Mr. Mund, not see an immediate increase in civil service, not even in your well-honored institution. But we can alleviate the conflict between task and resources if we become more efficient. That means cutting red tape, as Mr. Buschmann stressed, and this cuts two ways. On the one hand, we have to focus on the important problems and cases looking for potential to free up the resources of competition authorities. On the other hand, we have to speed up procedures of authorities and courts. Competition enforcement has grown into a complex and costly machinery. This is also due to the large amount of lawyers and economic consultants making their money by throwing another several hundred pages of documents on poor competition authorities and courts. This is also sometimes, Olivier Gasson agrees, so I add the Commission to the list. This is also sometimes due to authorities sending the next broad request for information. We need limits, self-restraint and courage to take decisions, to focus on delivering results. Let me turn to the second question I want to address. What have we achieved over the last 2 years? We have the Digital Markets Act in the books. The big question now is, will the gatekeepers comply? Margrethe, you have already expressed your doubts in public. I say it in my own, less diplomatic words. At least some of the gatekeepers seem to be dodging compliance. Those gatekeepers probably think they are smart when using their usual playbook of throwing every legal resource into the game of obstruction. Let me be very clear. These tactics of selling the public for fools will backfire. Politicians are watching very closely. We will not bind ourselves into only repeating the DMA has to be a success. There will be enforcement of the DMA, and there will be swift political judgment on the enforcement. If the DMA enforcement does not achieve changes in behavior and markets quickly, there will be a tougher and different upgrade. This would have to include wider discretionary powers for the Commission and, as a measure of last resort, going up to structural separation. Breaking the power of these gatekeepers is essential to restore fair competition, to achieve a fairer distribution of opportunities and wealth. It is essential for our economies and for our democracies. For US antitrust policy, you will hear from Jonathan Cantor. You will also later discuss the Brandasian ambition. What's there to last? As a European, I wish not only the Brandasian ambitions will last, I wish the Brandasians will last and will last after the presidential elections. And I wish your enforcement activities will succeed in the courts. In Germany, we have introduced, Minister Buschmann already introduced it to this, a new competition tool last year. The Bundeskartellamt already had the power to investigate a sector before our reform. Now it also has the power to stop a significant and continuing malfunctioning of competition. Minister Buschmann explained already many of the details, and it was thanks to the help of Mr. Mund that we were able finally to also get it voted. Why such new competition tool? Two main reasons. First, for significant structural competition problems in a sector, we need to do more than the one-off piecemeal enforcement against specific infringements. Second, Martin Snope uses to say, conduct on the markets nowadays moves away from blunt cartels to the fringes of existing competition law. Therefore, we need to fill the gaps in our toolbox to tackle some of this behavior. We have taken inspiration from the UK CMA market investigation tool. Some EU member states are also considering introducing such instruments. Mr. Mund, you sometimes say that the Bundeskartellamt did not call for the tool and that the additional legal thresholds that came into the final text are challenging. True. But there are competition authorities which would crave such a tool. And there are sectors in Germany out that merit scrutiny. So we hope the Bundeskartellamt can make the most out of this new tool, and I know you are already on it. Our new German competition tool brings me to the third and final question I would like to address. What do we want competition policy to achieve within the next years? I will set out the priorities for the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, which is leading also on competition policy in the government. These also include proposals for the EU level. I would like to see an ambitious work program for the next Commission in the field of competition. A competition tool for the European Commission would be high on our wish list. Last month, the European Parliament already welcomed the initiatives across many member states, including ours. It calls on the Commission to introduce a similar market investigation tool to avoid enforcement gaps. Next week, we will be formally submitting a concrete German proposal for the EU level. We would like to see this proposal in the reports of Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta. We suggest to focus the EU competition tool on those sectors which have a strong international dimension and are of high importance for the overall EU economy. The tool should take into account global competitiveness, the new geopolitical reality, and the scrutiny of the security of supply. Current examples for essential sectors providing key inputs for the EU economy would, for instance, include raw materials, energy, transport, semiconductors, and cloud computing. These sectors are part of the supply side for many European industry customers. Competition in these sectors may help European industry customers to compete better internationally. A second area where I would like to see a future interplay of national and EU action is sustainability. We will reform German competition law on sustainability agreements. We will follow into the steps of the Netherlands and the UK in particular with regard to environment out of market efficiency. Sorry about this. We would like to set the signal that the next EU horizontal guidelines should be more ambitious in this regard. We would also like to set a signal for the international debate here. The third area I would like to see progress is the fight against cartels. Competition authorities in the EU have seen a drop in leniency applications. We understand that several factors are at play, but it would be hard to ignore the incentives set by the EU damages directives. This problem is well known for some years. Therefore, we would urge a public consultation and a swift and thorough assessment of the damages directive by the next Commission. In Germany, court procedures in damage cases take away much time and resources. Therefore, we will attempt to streamline procedures in our upcoming reform. A fourth area where we see room for improvement are abuse of dominance cases. We welcome the Commission's ongoing reform of its Article 102 guidelines. This is one of the key areas to drop the more economic approach. We understand that the Commission has to take the ECJ on board, but only if the Commission leads the way and tries to set the right direction, there will be change. The best scenario would be that DMA enforcement becomes a laboratory and model for more efficient and quicker Article 102 enforcement. The experience and expertise of the DG Comp is important, but sometimes a rupture within the old habits of how things have been done is helpful. A fifth area, of course, are digital markets. DSA and DMA enforcement are of utmost importance. The Commission needs additional resources for enforcement. We propose for the DMA we should introduce the same fee financing as under the DSA. On generative AI, I'm glad to hear the general attitude of competition authorities. The aim is to prevent a rerun of the gatekeepers' playbook of advancing their ecosystem through acquisitions and exclusionary conduct. But this is not sufficient. We should prepare for an upgrade in the DMA to safely include cloud computing and AI. The sixth and final area of need for action, in my point of view, is merger control. We acknowledge that DG Comp seems to have learned from past mistakes such as Facebook and WhatsApp. There seems to be a tougher enforcement line emerging, including the prohibition of booking e-travel and the abandoned acquisition of iRobot by Amazon. In Germany, we will revise our merger thresholds to free resources at the Bundeskartellamt. The thresholds in the EU merger regulation have been unchanged now for 35 years. Taking into account inflation, this amounts to a de facto decrease of thresholds of up to 50%. This has led to a constant expansion of the scope of the merger regulation This ties up significant resources in DG Comp as well, which could be used for other priorities. We also need a legally sound solution for killer acquisitions. Therefore, the Commission must look into a reform of the merger regulation and the guidelines on horizontal and non-horizontal mergers. The new merger guidelines in the US this time may provide some inspiration. The German government will also make a proposal for merger reform for the Draghi and Letta process. Yes, so after all this long wish list, I would like to conclude with some humor. Competition has become part of the broader political discourse. We discuss all the key areas. And therefore, it's important to also look at competition on another level and also discuss these issues. Some of you have actually moved over from the Christina Caffarra conference now to Mr. Mund's conference today. The competition for the greater event is so far undecided, but there are clear signals that both conferences operate in a similar market. So similar speakers, similar topics, but even they both use Steigenberger facilities. Then one is more public funded, the other is more corporate funded. The one is called now Anti-Davos. I'm not sure whether Mr. Mund is hosting the new Seattle. So there are clear signs of being in one market, but the question is there already a cartel? So my question here to the conference is, which is the greater and who takes over supervision of these two conferences? Which competition authority will be the lead authority in this case? So, Mr. Mund, I wish you clear participants. I wish you a great conference, debating all the serious issues. You have great responsibility for our democracies and for our economy alike. And therefore, you are at the heart of political tough debates and tough issues, but at the same time, don't lose your humor in serious times. Thank you.